Hi, welcome to Average Man's Spiritual Quest. I'm your host, Benedict. I've been away for about 3 weeks. As it so happened, my two daughters ended up going to grad school in the same year. So I had to go back to the States and deliver them to their respective schools, and the older one to the East Coast. And through that trip, I experienced something and it raised a lot of questions for me, and I want to share them with you today. Miracles. It is said to be a surprising and welcome event that is not explainable by natural or scientific laws and is therefore considered to be the work of a divine agency, supernatural power, if you will. Well, Jesus rose from the dead in 3 days. That's a miracle. But does it really happen? Maybe not as dramatic as rising from the dead, but in some subtle ways in our own daily lives. Little old us. For me, yeah, it could. I say that because I cannot come up with a natural scientific reason as to why it could not. I, along with human science, we just don't know. Let's not engage in supreme hubris by saying miracles are stories only dumb people believe in because science says otherwise. Look, what we know now as quantum physics didn't even exist only hundreds some years ago. We thought Newtonian physics was it. Only a few decades ago, that's decades, not centuries, we didn't know there were many galaxies. Now we know there are billions of galaxies, each with billions of stars, each with number of planets. Let's call what we don't know yet as things we don't know. Well, during the trip that I mentioned, I experienced a personal experience, something through which I seriously wonder if a small, subtle miracle happened to my family. And you decide if I'm crazy or not. Well, my elder daughter was going to a law school in the East Coast, and she was starting her school on a Tuesday at the beginning of August, and my second daughter was starting her own communications program in LA on a Thursday during the same week. So we had planned a cross-country trip. Me and my wife and my two daughters and the elder daughter's cat, 4.5 of us, in my elder daughter's 10-year-old Prius. Okay, so we're going to make a cross-country trip all the way to the East Coast, delivering her and her cat and all her stuff, and of course the 10-year-old Prius. So before the trip, I advised my daughter to change all the tires and take it to a dealer and check out the car, whether it was capable of making a cross-country trip. But in order to save some money, my daughter ended up talking to some of her high school friends who became mechanics. Well, what do they know? So they sort of looked it over and said, yeah, I think it's good. So that's where it was. By the way, Prius, in Toyota's supreme wisdom, does not have a engine temperature gauge. It only has a engine temperature warning light. Now, as it turned out, before I got there, the warning light was coming on and off once in a while. And of course, her mechanic friends told her, yeah, I think it's good, man. So we packed the car, including on top, as you can see in the picture, and the 4 of us, the 4.5 of us, squeezed into the car along with all kinds of other stuff and a icebox in the middle, and we went merrily off into our adventure. So we took off from LA, headed to Las Vegas, and we're planning to go through the Rocky Mountains because my youngest daughter had never seen the Rocky Mountains. It was going to be a big trip. So we were on our way, and as you come out of LA, going up the mountains, the desert mountains, onto the plateau, before you reach the flat land, on your way to Las Vegas, there's a long incline. Maybe it takes about 40 minutes to go up that incline. And at one point, the car was dropping down to like 45 miles an hour. And I said, to myself and everybody, well, this is the first time I'm driving Toyota Prius. Is this supposed to do this? But it was really strange. And then the engine temperature warning light began to come in and out. And we just made it to the top of the plateau and we're on flat land finally. And we're driving merrily along and the warning light kept coming up more frequently. And then it stayed on. I said, my God, does that mean that the engine is overheating? Oh my God, what are we gonna do? We're in the middle of nowhere and I have 3 women in this car and a cat and the car is way down. Oh my God, what am I gonna do? Yeah, if it breaks down, who am I gonna call? Does AAA come all the way out here? I was desperate. And then a small, well, not a miracle, just a very, very unusual weather pattern in the middle of desert. There was a thunderstorm just that day, a severe thunderstorm with lots of rain and whatnot, and it dropped the temperature from like 100 some degrees to about 80, and of course the water too. So the engine cooled down a little bit. I said, oh my God, we got lucky. So we kept driving and the warning light kept flashing in and out, and so on and so forth. And I was hoping, let's just make it to Las Vegas. Please God, do not let us be broken down in the middle of this desert. Oh my God. And we just made it to Las Vegas. And as we approached the outskirts of Las Vegas, the warning light stayed on, solid. So the first freeway off-ramp sought out a automobile repair place as close as possible. So we pulled in there and we stopped the car and steam was just gushing out of the engine compartment. Oh my God. So we talked to the mechanic and the mechanic told us that we blew the water pump. Okay, so how much does it cost? Oh, it'll cost you $900. Well, can you fix it by tomorrow morning? Yeah, we'll do our best. So that's how it happened. So we stayed at a nearby motel, the mechanics wouldn't give us a ride, so we had to call a cab and everything else, and we picked up the car the next day. Now, overnight, I did some serious research on the internet, and then I learned that if a car overheats for an extended period of time because the water pump gave out, then what could happen next is that the gasket between the engine block and the top cap of the engine can melt away. If that happens, then the engine oil and the engine coolant will be burnt off through the internal combustion process. Oh my God, then you have to replace the gasket and reset the engine, and that takes a couple of days, and it's a $3,000 job. I said, oh my God. So next morning when he went to pick up the car, I asked the mechanic this question, and the mechanic said, well, we did all kinds of testing. We put the pressurized air into the engine and tested everything. I think you're good. So we said, oh, thank God. So we went merrily on our way. But we decided, well, let's not risk going up the Rocky Mountains from the west. Well, it's going to be less fun, but let's take the flatter route by going down to the desert area. So we entered into Arizona, Texas, and so on and so forth. Now, we drove merrily, playing with a cat and listening to music and having a great time, although we're driving through a desert area, 43 degrees outside. And at one point, I believe by the end of the second day or third day, we were approaching Oklahoma City. And as we approached the Oklahoma City, there was a construction on the freeway. So the traffic slowed to about, I would say, 15, 20 miles an hour. And then all of a sudden, the car went. I said, oh, did they build some kind of a thing on the surface of the freeway to remind everybody that there's a construction and we need to slow down? But the engine continued to go. I said to myself, this is weird, so let's pull over. We pulled over and all kinds of smoke and steam was gushing out of the engine. So I went outside and ran to the back of the car, and sure enough, out of the exhaust was coming out this white puffs of smoke, pum, 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 like that. And of course, everything I read the night before rushed into my head, and I ran to the front of the engine and checked the engine oil. Well, I checked the coolant first, and the coolant was way down. And I checked the engine oil, and when I put in the dipstick and put it up, cleaned it, and put it back in, and put it up and looked at it, there's nothing there. I couldn't believe my eyes. So I did it again. There was absolutely no engine oil left in it whatsoever. Oh my God. So we got off the first off-ramp, and it was a very, very, how should I say, rundown and scary looking neighborhood. And we parked in a parking lot of a McDonald's, and we frantically started calling AAA. We waited 2 hours, 3 hours. AAA wouldn't come, and they wouldn't answer the phone call. Eventually, they sent us an email saying, because it was Friday night, it was about 7, 8 o'clock, there was nobody available to come to our aid. Oh my God, it was a dangerous looking area. We were terrified, and the car was in no shape to go anywhere. So we had to tow the car to somewhere, but where? We thought and decided that first thing we need to do is to find a room so that we have a place to hide and rest for the day, and decide where to tow the car. Now, it being Friday, all the dealers would be closed the next day. So we called a local towing service, and these burly people with all kinds of tattoos on their arms and whatnot came out. Thankfully, they were very, very friendly. And in the meantime, we decided to sell the car, because there was no way for us to wait for the car to be repaired, because my first daughter was starting school on Tuesday, and the second daughter was starting school back in LA on Thursday. So we had to sell the car, but where? And as it turned out, there is a nationwide chain of used car buying and selling place, and we towed it there. And we decided that we'll have to rent a car to finish the journey, but because we were blowing a day to sell the car and everything the next day, but there was no way at all for us to take our first daughter to her school in time. So we let her fly out to her school the next day, and the remaining 3 of us and the cat sold the car at that place, got $4,000 for it, and we finished the journey in 3 more days. Now, by the time we got back on the road, I began to think, and I was deeply moved. And it was almost a mystical experience, because, think about it. What are the odds of a car breaking down in a major way just as we entered civilization, a big city where we could find a room to stay and fix the car twice in a row? What are the odds? That happening once, yeah, we got lucky. But that happening twice with 1 or 2 miles of margin of error? That was too good to be true. That was too good to believe. And I seriously began to wonder, if I had experienced a small, maybe a subtle miracle of sort, some kind of an intervention by the supernatural something or someone. But the plot thickens. Dreams. I gotta tell you about the dreams, 2 of them, that truly and honestly make me wonder. The first dream was about snakes. Remember I told you about 3 months ago that I broke my toe and I was in cast for a month and a half? I fell from that stair right behind me. 2 days before that accident, I had a dream where I saw a whole bunch of maybe 30 or 40 rattlesnakes all rattling away, strewn across a grassy field. And I was terrified, and somehow or other picked them all up and put it into a large plastic bag, and I was trying to figure out how to dispose of it when somebody that I used to hate, and of course he used to hate me a long time ago in a company that I was working for at the time, appeared in the dream and asked for it. And I said, well, what are you going to do with snakes? He said, I'm going to go make soup out of it because it is supposed to be a cure-all and it makes you Superman in sex, that kind of thing. I said, oh, okay, you can have it. So that was the dream, and 2 days later, I broke my toe. Another dream. 2 days before I took the flight back to LA for this trip that I was talking about, and I had a dream where I was driving in the dream. And then in the dream, I passed out for a minute. And I regained my consciousness in my dream. And my car had plowed into a building right front part. And things were falling from the building. Apparently there was something wrong with the building construction and things were falling down, and I escaped. And after that, I said, oh, gosh darn it, what a silly dream. So I went back to sleep. And immediately I had a second dream. I went to a dentist's office, and the dentist was looking at my teeth and examining them. And I said, oh, Mr. Yim, 2 of your molars are kind of shaky. And he was shaking them, and 2 of them fell out. For Koreans, losing teeth in a dream, especially molars, is considered very, very bad indeed. You know, only until several years ago, I only used to dream absolutely silly dreams. Koreans call them 개꿈, literally translated dog dreams. Yeah, at times in full colors, with elaborate and fantastic details and storylines, really, really entertaining at times, but dog dreams nonetheless. I also used to dream a lot about having, with women I didn't know, I just met in the dream, torrid and unusual, great deal of fun. I used to wonder though, Jesus, at my age, when am I going to grow up? Then starting, several years ago, I began to have dreams that felt like they had some meaning behind them. You know, the stuff we see in dreams may have different symbolism depending on the culture you live in, but in Korean culture at least, snakes are bad, old enemies are bad, big fire explosions are good, smoke rising from fire that has been put out is bad, poo is good, the more the better, seeing dead parents can be problematic, pigs are good, like that. I know, some of you are saying, oh, come on, Benedict, you are being silly and ridiculous, and I'm beginning to lose confidence in your intellectual, serious approach in this YouTube. But wait, just think about the odds though. 2 breakdowns happening just as we were entering major cities, 2 in a row, and the snake dream before breaking my toe, and the car wreck dream plus 2 molars falling out dream, couple of days before we experienced the car breaking down on freeway 2 times. Were these all coincidences? Am I just being superstitious? Or is there some identifiable pattern here that can only be explained in supernatural terms? I think somebody or something from the other side, supernatural side, was helping us, warning me. But that means that something or someone interfered with destiny, karma, or the cause and effect of butterfly effect theorem. According to quantum physics, there is no free will. Everything is predetermined in terms of cause and effect and quantum physics. I don't fully understand it, so maybe I'll cover it in another video someday. Now, Asians have 2 notions for destiny. Number 1, in Korean, it's called 숙명. Let's call it master destiny, if you will. It means that there is an inescapable path of life that is predetermined and inalterable. And there's the second one, 운명. Let's call it junior destiny, if you will. It means that certain details or peripheral events in the path of our lives can be altered, though never altering the master destiny, depending on your effort or beneficial help or influence by people you meet in your life. But today, the question my recent semi-miraculous experience raises is this. Does 운명, the junior destiny, explain the possibility of intervention in our daily happenings by supernatural something, whatever it is? That's the question I'm addressing today. Christianity believes in miracles. Theosophists believe that we are here to learn vital life lessons as we go through a life path predetermined, by the way, by ourselves before we are born into our current lives. And God and our spirit guides constantly engage with us. Hell, all religions are based on the belief that supernatural events can be real and actual. As for me, I just cannot shake off the only conclusion I can reach that someone was protecting me and my family during this trip and was trying to give me warnings through my dreams. Why? As I said before, the odds of the two breakdowns happening just as we were entering major cities, and the two dreams, one before I broke my toe and one before the cross-country trip, all happening with such logical correlation, is just too compelling for me to dismiss them as mere coincidence. Well, what do you think? Are there miracles? Do supernatural entities actually intervene in our daily lives? Or am I being ridiculous? Am I turning superstitious in my old age? Thank you. I'll see you next time.